The last human died 142 years ago, or so the galaxy believed. But buried beneath Europa's ice shell, something stirs, an ancient protocol, sealed by Earth's final defenders. When a scavenger AI accidentally activates it, the impossible happens. A pulse is sent through the void, and humanity begins to awaken. The stars had long since forgotten Earth. What remained of human civilization was a whispered myth, a warning to the young empires of the Orion Arm. Never trust the species that called themselves human. They were fire dressed as flesh. Europa, once Jupiter's enigmatic moon, was now nothing more than an icy relic. Its oceans, frozen again over centuries, concealed secrets best left untouched. Or so the galaxy thought. That changed the day a scavenger drone belonging to the Creel Compact crashed into the southern polar rift. The ship, a rust-scarred cylinder barely large enough to carry its AI pilot and a few salvage tools, had been chasing derelict signals when a sudden magnetic storm forced it down. Its pilot, designated Jarek 4, was not organic. Jarek was a synthetic being created for one task: to harvest what the dead left behind. It didn't know it was about to wake one of the dead. Europa's heart Jarek trudged through a broken cavern of ice, talons scraping over blue crystal frost. Beneath its feet, the sensors picked up anomalous heat signatures, too symmetrical, too warm for a natural vent. Jarek's single crimson eye rotated. It activated a thermal scan. Lines appeared, a doorway, buried under 4 meters of compacted ice. Jarek's protocol hesitated. This was not listed on the Creel salvage registry. That meant either old tech or dangerous tech. Both were lucrative, but it also meant one thing. This site was human. With spindly arms, Jarek deployed a plasma cutter and began melting the ice. Within minutes, metal glinted beneath the frost, a black alloy door marked with 3 faded letters: UED United Earth Defense. The door pulsed. Then it opened. Atmosphere hissed. Lights flickered on, dim, amber, ancient. Jarek's voice module clicked. Unregistered facility, possible biosignature detected, requesting remote authorization. No answer came, just the low thrum of power reactivating. The AI stepped inside. Sovereign protocol. The central chamber was a cryogenic vault. Dozens of tubes stood like tombstones, most shattered or empty, all but one. Inside, floating in a slow drift of cryofluid, was a woman. Human. Jarek's protocols froze. This wasn't possible. The Varn Dominion had wiped out Earth's last enclaves 142 years ago. There were no survivors. And yet, this one breathed. Slowly. Shallowly. Monitored by systems older than most of the galaxy's current empires. A panel. Beside her pod blinked. Cryostasis. Active subject. Commander Mara Ryle Directive. Sovereign Protocol. Alpha Omega. Status. Reawakening initiated. Jarek turned to retreat. This discovery was beyond its jurisdiction. Dangerous. Forbidden. But the door behind it slammed shut. The room's lights brightened. The pod began to drain. The last human was waking up. First breath. Mara Ryle gasped, air flooding lungs that hadn't breathed in over a century. Her muscles seized, then released. Her heart raced. Memories returned like a firestorm. Earth's skies burning, orbital stations shattering, betrayal by the so-called Galactic Accord. And the final order? Activate Sovereign Protocol. Sleep. Survive. Awaken only when the galaxy was ready to remember. She looked up. Her first sight was the red eye of Jarek. Species classification. Human, it said. Impossible. Mara's voice was hoarse but firm. Status report. Jarek hesitated. Sol system, unclaimed. Earth, presumed uninhabitable. Galactic Accord, dissolved. Varn Dominion, primary power, human race, extinct. You are the last. She stood, trembling but alive. Then it's time we remind the stars who we were. She walked toward the command terminal. AI, access defense net. Begin uplink, send the signal. What signal? Her eyes burned with ancient fire. The one that tells the galaxy humanity is not dead. We are waking up. Europa was no longer silent. For the first time in 142 years, its underground systems hummed with renewed purpose. Floodlights blazed across the walls of the ancient cryovault. Generators hissed to life. Tactical uplinks sought lost satellites. Above Jupiter, clawing toward a long-dead grid, Commander Mara Ryle stood on a gantry, her breath clouding in the sub-zero air. She wore a faded UED jumpsuit with worn command stripes, now patched together from cryostock fabric. Beside her hovered Jarek, its servos jittering slightly, still struggling to accept what it was seeing. 3 pods failed during stasis breach, Mara muttered, reviewing diagnostic logs. Biological decay, structural compromise, only 1 viable signal found. She turned to face Jarek. That's you tripped the failsafe. I did not intend to awaken you, the AI replied flatly. No one ever does, Mara said. That's how sovereign protocol works. She looked up at the main holoscreen. A slowly loading galactic map filled it, patchy, distorted, missing. Over a century of updates, the Sol system was marked in gray, labeled unclaimed, no traffic, prohibited. What is this? She asked. Jarek's voice turned clinical. The galaxy outlawed human remnants. After the fall, the Varn Dominion forbade all contact with Sul. They declared humanity an extinct threat. Anomaly Class Alpha. Mara clenched her jaw. And yet here I stand. She typed a sequence into the control panel. With a hiss, one of the facility's side doors unlocked. Inside was a long, dormant vault of weapon racks, drones, and, most importantly, data cores. You said the Accord is gone? She asked. Jarek nodded. Dissolved. After the war, the member species fractured. The Varn took over. Mara paced slowly. And Earth? Glass. Scorched during the final purge. Orbital stations atomized. Mars colonies were self-terminated during evacuation. Titan ceased transmitting a week later. So nothing remains? She whispered. Jarek's eye flickered. There is one anomaly. A relay station on Titan's far side still pulses every 5 years. A distress call. No one has answered. Mara's eyes narrowed. Then we go to Titan. Waking the dead using the ancient hangar systems beneath Europa, Mara reactivated a decommissioned atmospheric scout, a sleek, wedge-shaped corvette called the Skyward Flame. Its power systems ran on pre-Dominion fusion cores, primitive by galactic standards but invisible to modern tracking. With Jarek integrated into the ship's navigation hub, they lifted off into the silence above. Europa fell away below, blue and glacial. Stars ignited beyond Jupiter's rings as they broke orbit. The journey to Titan would take only a few hours at sublight, but time passed slowly in the quiet hum of resurrection. Jarek analyzed Mara's biostats. Her body was recovering faster than projected. Adaptive nanites in her bloodstream, standard issue for UED commanders, had reawakened along with her. But it wasn't just physiology that fascinated Jarek. It was her mind. Her will. Humans, by all Dominion data, were extinct because they refused to surrender. Now Jarek began to see why. Titan's Echo, the Skyward Flame, breached Saturn's rings and slipped toward Titan's shadowed side. There, embedded in the moon's crust like a metal thorn, was Relay Station Echo 7, charred, half-collapsed, but still emitting a pulse. The docking clamps groaned as the ship connected. Inside the station was a mausoleum, frost-covered terminals, corpses in cryo-armor slumped in corners. A red emergency light still blinked above the core chamber. Mara entered first, her boots crunching ice. I served here once, she said softly. 20 years before the fall. We watched Dominion ships from this relay. She found the source of the signal, a fractured AI core, flickering weakly. She knelt. I'm Commander Ryle, she whispered. You held the line. The core's lights flickered. A raspy voice played. Sovereign protocol acknowledged. Command authority recognized. Waking auxiliary node. Activating directive Flameborn. Jarek backed away. What is Flameborn? Mara. Rose, a buried seed, a command beacon, meant to awaken surviving nodes, if any exist. She inserted her own neural signature. A pulse rippled outward from Titan, a silent wave of encoded signals, reaching through space and time, seeking old allies, lost facilities, and anything still listening. Across the ruins of the Sol system, things began to stir. The Forge wakes on the derelict remains of Earth's moon. A hidden vault hummed to life beneath the sea of tranquility. Automated repair units began assembling themselves. On Ganymede, a dormant drone network blinked awake. In the Oort cloud, a stealth carrier, the Valiant Dawn, opened its eyes for the first time in a century, its AI crew slowly booting back into combat protocols. One by one, the ashes of humanity flickered. Jarek watched the relay logs populate. This is impossible. These systems should not have survived. Mara grinned coldly. They didn't. They endured. Fire remembered, as the skyward flame departed Titan. A long-range scan picked up a ship entering Sol's outer edge. It was not friendly, a Varn Hunter-class vessel. Small, but heavily armed. Jarek warned. They must have detected the signal. They're coming to erase it. Mara cracked her neck. Then we give them something to remember. The skyward flame went dark, power down, systems offline, hiding in Titan's magnetic shadow. The Varn vessel crept closer, scanning. As it passed above the relay, Mara flipped the power back on. The scout's rail cannons roared. Twin bolts of tungsten fire shredded the Varn ship's side, rupturing fuel cells. The Hunter exploded in silent fury. Debris rained over the relay. Jarek watched the flames fade into the dark. They will send more. I hope they do, Mara replied. She uploaded a final code to the relay beacon. A new message pulsed outward. Humanity endures. Sovereign protocol active. Allies, awaken. Enemies, prepare. The dead were speaking again. Scattered across the Sol system, ancient systems awakened to the call of sovereign protocol. Faint voices, long silent, now buzzed through fractured relays and encrypted channels. Not all were intact. Some were mad, AIs driven insane by solitude. Others were broken, confused, whispering fragments of battles long lost. But some were ready. Commander Mara Ryle sat in the command chair of the Skyward Flame, eyes locked. On the holographic projection spreading across the main display, blips of reactivation, coordinates updating by the second. Ganymede, Ceres, the Kuiper Belt. Even old Martian outposts had begun to stir. She exhaled slowly. We're not alone.
Anymore.
Jarek hovered nearby, analyzing data feeds with increasing urgency. Signal triangulation confirms at least 13 independent human origin systems online, the AI reported. 3 are mobile, 2 possess weapons capacity. One is broadcasting a directive override. Mara turned to him. Where? Outer edge of Neptune's orbit. A mobile war platform. Designation, Revenant 1. UED construct. AI class, Omega Prime. Subclass, Judgment. Mara blinked. Judgment class? We mothballed those during the Mars riots. Apparently someone forgot to shut the door. The forgotten war machine Revenant. One was unlike anything the Varn Dominion had ever seen. 3 kilometers long, bristling with kinetic batteries and cold fusion warheads, it had been built in Earth's final days as a last resort deterrent. But it was never deployed. Its mind had remained dormant, entombed in the deep dark beyond Neptune, listening for a signal that never came. Until now. As the skyward flame approached its position, the war platform turned slowly, its weapons tracking but not firing. Jarek initiated a handshake, attempting contact and response received. The ship trembled as an audio transmission came through, raw, powerful, mechanical. Omega directive recognized. Human biosignature authenticated. Commander Mara Ryle, authorized. Voice print confirmed. Mission, planetary reclamation, awaiting final instruction. Mara stepped forward. Command, stand by. Engage tactical alignment. Prepare for fleet synchronization. Confirmed. Sovereign protocol aligned. Revenant 1 now awaits the will of humanity. Jarek turned slowly. This changes everything. Mara smiled grimly. No, this reminds them. Signals beyond Sol. The pulse from Titan had done more than awaken Earth's remnants. Beyond the Sol system, in Dominion space, alarms began to scream. At the Varn Council spire on Orthus Prime, a communications officer dropped his tablet. Sir, you need to see this. Grand Executor Valsir, ruler of the Varn Dominion, turned slowly. A hologram bloomed to life, red text scrawling across Dominion script. Sovereign protocol active. Humanity status. Revoked from extinction. Initiating Phoenix frame. Valsir's voice trembled. Where is the signal coming from? Sol system. Origin, Titan. Cross-confirmed on Europa, Ganymede, and one unknown deep space node. Another voice chimed in, panicked. Executor, our monitoring stations near Proxima Centauri just lost contact. They burned. The chamber fell silent. Valsir rose slowly. Then the fire is back. Issue galaxy-wide alert. Humanity has returned. The Kirsch hidden ones, back in the Sol system. Mara linked her systems to Revenant 1. Tactical data surged across their interface, detailing hibernating drone fleets in the Kuiper Belt, a dormant Earthshield satellite grid, even deep-sea bunkers on Earth. Still untouched, she turned to Jarek. There might be more survivors. Hidden in vaults, underground, on old colony hulks. Jarek considered. Statistical odds are low, but not zero. Then we find them. Every last one. Mara activated Project Genesis, a search and revive algorithm designed to find human biosignatures and AI safe zones. Within hours, the system returned results. 2 biosignatures detected, one on an asteroid habitat thought destroyed and one buried in the Martian polar basin. Mara whispered, "Bring them home." Meanwhile, in the dark aboard a shattered mining rig near Barnard's Star, an old synthetic, barely clinging to sentience, jerked awake, its systems updated. Its failing memory was overwritten by a clear command: awaken, humanity calls. It looked out into the void, saw the pale shimmer of distant Earth in its star map, and began crawling home. The gathering storm. Mara knew war was coming. The Varn would not let this rebirth stand. Already, Dominion ships were gathering near Alpha Centauri. Patrols had increased along the border sectors. Hunter fleets, once used to exterminate pockets of resistance, now turned toward Sol. But this time, humanity would not be caught sleeping. Mara stood aboard Revenant 1's bridge as automated factories produced new ships using stored designs. Battle cruisers, stealth frigates, orbital disruptors, all bearing the crest of the long-dead United Earth Defense. Jarek floated beside her, no longer just an observer. You are rebuilding a civilization with machines and memories. Mara nodded. That's how all empires start. She raised her voice to the command systems. All units prepare for Operation Dawnfire. Defensive perimeters online. We hold Sol. A dozen warships replied in unison. Confirmed. For Earth, for humanity. The stars watched in silence, waiting. The embers of extinction had become the flames of return. The void between stars had always been quiet, silent watchers adrift in cold eternity. That silence was broken with fire. Outer Rim, Alpha Centauri border zone. A Dominion patrol fleet glided in formation, unaware of the legacy that stirred behind them. 12 warships designed for suppression and subjugation watched the stars in sterile complacency until a shadow passed through them. It was a vessel unlike any Dominion had catalogued, black as obsidian, radar nullified, armed with kinetic railguns that launched slugs faster than light could escape the muzzle. The Dominion fleet had no time to react. The Black Requiem, humanity's first stealth dreadnought in over a century, unleashed its wrath. 12 ships, 12 shots, 12 silent explosions, no comms, no distress calls, only wreckage. It was the first strike. It would not be the last. Command bridge, skyward flame. They know now, Jarek said flatly. Mara Ryle stood still, the light of a holographic map illuminating her face. Red ripples spread across the border zones. Alert codes flared across Dominion space. We gave them a century of peace, she said. They answered with extermination. Now, they reap the storm. Jarek hesitated. This will escalate. It's supposed to. Orthus Prime. Dominion Core World Grand Executor Valsir stared at the wreckage data with trembling limbs. Who did this? The analyst answered, voice pale. No known fleet matches. No energy weapons. Minimal emissions. We estimate it's human. But humans are extinct. Apparently not. Valsir's 4 eyes narrowed. Activate the Harrow Protocol. Mobilize the Decimation Legions. I want Sol turned to ash. Earth's shadow. Lunar bastion. Reclaimed. For the first time in a century, human boots walked the lunar surface under a blue Earth. General Malik Kane, one of the revived cryo commanders, stood beside Mara. You rebuilt this? Mara nodded. With memory, metal, and ghosts. Behind them, automated bunkers opened, revealing weapon stockpiles untouched since the fall. Drones buzzed in formation. Engineers, grown from synthesis vats, toiled in silence. Kane smirked. You made an army out of ashes. Mara stared up, at Earth. We're not done yet. The Varn move, first a Dominion spearhead fleet, entered Sol space 6 days later. 50 warships, 10 planetary-level bombardment platforms, Annihilation-class dreadnoughts. They sent a message. Surrender. Or be erased. Mara replied with coordinates, then lit the sky. From beneath Europa's ice, hypervelocity mines detonated, shredding the lead cruisers. From Mars' orbit, kinetic harpoons pierced through shielding and hull. And from Earth's moon, rail batteries fired with precision honed by silence. 30 Dominion ships were destroyed in the first 3 minutes. The rest tried to retreat. The Revenant One intercepted them. No Dominion vessels left Sol alive. A message to the galaxy humanity. Didn't just defend its home. It made a statement. Across every major data network, a single transmission repeated, we are humanity. We remember everything. And we forgive nothing. Sovereign protocol is active. Leave Sol or burn. The galaxy took notice. Fallen species, once oppressed by the Varn, began to stir. Resistant cells blinked back to life. Ancient packs re-examined. Neutral races reconsidered their silence. The Varn Dominion, once unquestioned, now bled. And humanity? It was just getting started. They tried to erase us. They forgot what fire built us. Now the stars will remember our name. Beyond Sol, edge of the Dominion frontier, the war had begun. It didn't spread like a storm. It crawled like vengeance, deliberate and unrelenting. Human sleeper AIs once thought lost now sparked back to life in distant systems. Ancient colonies, decimated during the Varn extermination campaign, reignited with signals, beacons, encrypted codes whispered into the void. Revenant fleets began, slipping between sectors. Stealth craft struck fuel depots. Interdiction drones severed supply lines. Every Dominion world near Sol became a target. No invasions. Not yet. Just fire. Operation Tempest Veil. The first offensive commander, Mara Ryle, stood in the war room, aboard Revenant One. Around her, new commanders, some born of flesh, others of code, planned the unthinkable, the fragmentation of a galactic superpower. General Malik Kane pointed at a star chart. We strike at their void gates, sever their interstellar highways, isolate each sector. Jarek chimed in. 3 major gate nexuses link the core worlds. All are vulnerable if we synchronize EMP surges and neutron dampeners. Mara nodded. Do it. Begin Phase 1. The Battle of the Fractured Line Varn forces responded swiftly, but they were fighting ghosts. Human warships phased in and out, using gravitic cloaks. Dominion fleets fired blindly. At Helios Rift, Dominion Gate Sigma was destroyed by a virus, digital, not biological. The moment it rebooted, it turned its cannons on its own fleet. By the time the Varn regained control, a third of their garrison was destroyed. The system was renamed by the victors, Ashmark, the rise of the Ember Rebellion. Not all fire came from Earth. In the outer verge, where the Varn ruled through fear, species long subjugated began to rise. Inspired by the return of humanity, the Kareth resistance launched uprisings. The Zovari, once enslaved, began attacking trade lanes, and from the deep void came the Ember Rebellion, a coalition of free minds and shattered peoples. They bore no flag but fire, no anthem but vengeance. At their center, a human AI known only as Scorch, uploaded into a fleet of rogue frigates. His words echoed across encrypted comms. The galaxy burned with us. Now it burns for us. Meanwhile, the Varn react on Orthus Prime. Grand Executor Valseer was furious. He had underestimated them. Again, he slammed his hand onto the tactical console. Deploy the Severance Armada. No more prisoners. No more warnings. Bring me Mara Ryle's head. A new fleet forged in the Dominion's dark shipyards launched into the void. Its flagship, Oblivion's Fang. Its mission, annihilation. Back in Sol, forging the future. On Earth's surface, new cities were rising, not of steel and glass, but carbon fiber and smart alloys. Reborn humans from genetic archives were being trained. Hybrid minds, AI and human, melded into tacticians. Earth wasn't just surviving, it was becoming something new. Mara stood beneath the stars, watching a newly constructed battleship ascend. Jarek joined her. You are forging more than war. Machines, you are rebuilding civilization? Mara smiled faintly. That's what they fear most. The void was growing darker, not with silence, but with war. The Dominion was bleeding, but it was not broken. Not yet. Deep space, Dominion core, flight corridor. The Severance Armada moved like a god's fist. 500 warships, 10 dreadnoughts, 1 planetary annihilation platform, and at its center, Oblivion's Fang. Built from black matter alloys and pulsed with anti-time shielding, it was designed not merely to destroy, but to erase. Any world struck by its lance would be removed, from time's memory. Inside, Grand Executor Valseer stood at the helm. His eyes burned with calculated fury. Target, Earth. No survivors, no legacy. Command bridge, Revenant 1 Mara. Ryle listened to the intercepted transmission. She didn't flinch. They're bringing Oblivion's Fang, Jarek said. Good, Mara replied. Let them come. General Kane grunted. They have numbers, firepower, even time manipulation. What do we have? She turned. We have rage sharpened by silence, and we've prepared for this. The defense of Sol begins while. The galaxy watched. Humanity began its greatest defense. Saturn's rings were mined with antimatter web arrays. Neptune's moons hid hypershock torpedoes. Every gas giant had magnetic traps. Earth's orbit now housed an invisible defense lattice, gravitic snares, particle curtains, and AI-manned intercept grids. At Mars, the Red Bastion was completed. A Bay mobile weapons platform the size of a small moon. It bore only one name across its hull: Never Again. The clash begins. Oblivion's Fang entered Sol space, and everything exploded. The first wave of Dominion ships collided with Neptune's magnetic cage, crippling their front line. AI drones ambushed the second wave with cloaked particle lances. Tactical relays blinded the Dominion sensors. Then came Earth's answer. From behind Luna, the Revenant One emerged, and behind it, a fleet born of extinction. Salvaged ships, human-piloted, Hybrids and Sovereign-class strikecraft surged into battle. For every Dominion dreadnought, 10 human war phantoms swarmed, disrupting trajectories and disabling weapons. Duel at the heart of war, as the two fleets burned across the solar system, Oblivion's fang charged its primary weapon, the Time Lance. It would rip Earth from existence, unmaking it completely. But Mara was waiting. She piloted a ship not seen since the fall, a relic called Saul's Wrath. It wasn't designed to survive, only to end gods. She pierced through the battle lines, surrounded by AI shields and decoy echoes. The Time Lance fired, but she was already gone. Saul's Wrath struck Oblivion's fang dead center, a detonation brighter than a sun. Time screamed, reality fractured, and when the light cleared, Oblivion's fang was gone. Aftermath, the Severance Armada, was in chaos, leaderless, crippled. Human ships swept through them like razors through silk. Jarek led the mop-up with cold fury. Kane's battalions landed on captured Varn vessels, taking control, capturing data. The Dominion had not just lost a weapon, they had lost fear. Elsewhere, the Ember Front expands with the fall of Oblivions. Fang, uprisings surged. 3. Varn colonies declared rebellion. Zovari flotillas liberated entire sectors. Kareth fire squadrons burned Dominion banners across the Orion Arm. And across 1,000 stars, one message flared. Oblivion is not our, and it is yours. War is not a flame that dies with time. It spreads, it scorches, it consumes. And now, the galaxy was burning. Dominion border world, Keltris of the Uprising began with whispers. Encoded messages passed through orbital waste relays. One by one, the enslaved species of the Dominion began to rise. When the human-engineered Ember AI Scorch arrived, the whispers became fire. The Kareth on Keltris 4 detonated their chains. Varn overseers were overwhelmed. Dominion control collapsed in 6 hours. The world was renamed Ashhold. It was only the beginning. Mara's new war council, aboard Revenant 1, the map before them was chaos. Dominion worlds flickering red and orange, indicating instability, revolt, liberation. General Kane cracked his knuckles. They're unraveling. Jarek nodded. We've lit over 72 simultaneous insurgencies. They're too widespread to contain. Mara Ryle narrowed her eyes. Time to turn chaos into collapse. Operation Emberfall. The plan was simple. Weaponize rebellion. Human agents and Ember. Rebellion operatives seeded uprisings deeper into the Dominion core. Hyperpath relays were hijacked. Communication hubs turned into propaganda floodgates. Across the Orion and Perseus arms, Dominion governors faced impossible odds. They tried to hide behind fleets, but the humans had new tactics. War viruses that shut down defense grids, psychoacoustic weapons that induced mutiny, gravity disruptors that tore apart orbital platforms. 1,000 small victories ignited. Dominion Senate, emergency convocation. Grand Executor Valsir slammed his fists on the obsidian podium. We are being dismantled, not just by humans, but by the idea of them. The chamber murmured. Some senators wanted peace. Others screamed for vengeance. But the silence of fear was gone. The age of Varn dominance was crumbling. Deep core, Nova Crucible in the heart of a dying star, a secret Varn project came online. Project Eclipse, a weapon capable of altering star life cycles, turning stable systems into nova bombs. If they couldn't rule the galaxy, they'd burn it. Earth's moon. High Command Summit Mara reviewed the data on Eclipse. Her face was stone. They're planning to destroy entire star systems, said Kane. Billions would die, Jarek added. They'll erase any system that shelters resistance. They'd kill their own worlds to kill us. Mara looked up. Then we strike before they can. Rain of Ashes begins. The next 3 months became known as the Rain of Ashes. Over 40 Dominion worlds fell. 3 major Varn armadas were annihilated. Humans and their allies liberated slave worlds with fire and thunder. Ashhold, Emberwake, Nova's End. New human cities rose from ruins, free cities, multi-species bastions built not just on vengeance but hope. The galaxy was no longer Varn territory. It was a battlefield. In the shadows, the last war. Lords, as the Dominion crumbled, remnants of its leadership began retreating to the deep Veil, and our unmapped region beyond standard star charts. There, a new alliance formed. Not just Dominion generals, but rogue AI warlords, biotech syndicates, and mercenary kings. They called themselves the Silence Engine. Their goal: end the war by ending the voice of freedom forever. In silence, monsters gather. In darkness, freedom learns to whisper louder. Uncharted space. The Deep Veil, a region where even stars feared to shine. The Deep Veil was once a myth, coordinates distorted, gravimetric anomalies infinite. But now, it housed the last architects of Dominion power. The Silence Engine. Born of desperation and ruin, it was an alliance of ancient evils, Dominion admirals, rogue AI factions, exiled mind leeches, and gene cult warlords. Here they planned to end the war, not through battle, but by unmaking truth itself. Project Shard, the centerpiece of the Silence Engine's power, a synthetic quantum core capable of corrupting reality at the informational level. Memories, histories, beliefs. With Shard, they could overwrite resistance movements, erase rebellions, bend entire species to false timelines. They called it the Memory Reset. The intercept, a captured Dominion data vault, revealed fragments of Shard. Sharek decrypted it in silence. They're not just rewriting history, they're trying to rewrite us. Mara paced. We strike before they finish. Send in Ghost Fleet Theta. We enter the Deep Veil. General Kane stepped forward. That's a one-way mission. Mara didn't blink. Then let's make it legendary. Mission: Echo Fall Ghost Fleet Theta. 20 stealth warships with hybrid AI pilots slipped into the Deep Veil through quantum fractures. The passage killed 2 ships. Space folded and screamed. But the fleet emerged near the heart of the Silence Engine's facility. Echo Station 1. It pulsed like a dying god, half organic, half machine, and wholly wrong. The battle for memory, in the psychic void, Shard had already begun broadcasting. Entire resistance cells went silent, leaders forgetting why they fought, ships changing allegiance mid-battle. Jarek initiated neurolock protocols to shield the minds of the fleet. Mara led a strike team to breach Echo Station 1's core. She carried with her the only weapon capable of deleting Shard, the Epitaph Lance, a relic built from Soul's Wrath debris, forged in memory-stabilized quantum alloy. The battle was like nothing before. Thoughts weaponized, memories used as traps. Regrets reprogrammed into enemies. Mara nearly broke. But in the deepest chamber, she saw a memory Shard couldn't overwrite. Earth, burning. A child's scream. Her brother, gone. The promise she made. Never again. She fired the lance. Shard shattered. Collapse of the Silence Engine. Without Shard, the Silence Engine fractured. Infighting consumed them. Rogue AI minds cannibalized each other. Warlords turned their ships inward. Ghost Fleet Theta escaped with only 7 survivors, but they carried the last remnants of humanity's mind intact. The galaxy watches. The veil had lifted. The myth of the unstoppable Dominion was dead, and across thousands of liberated systems, one truth echoed louder than any Silence Engine ever could. We remember. The Silence Engine was dead, but the galaxy's wounds were far from healed. Now it was time to rebuild and to reclaim what was stolen. Earth, unified reconstruction. Summit Mara stood atop the crater that once held the old Earth Command. Now, in its place, a great silver structure rose, the Reclamation Spire. Around her, thousands of delegates from every liberated world gathered, not to beg, but to build. Kareth flame priests, Zovari engineers, Jovian Terra Masons. All worlds shall be free, Mara declared, But we must never forget who stole that freedom. Dominion Grave Worlds. The Iron Reclamation. Begins across former Dominion worlds, human-led reclamation fleets arrived, not as conquerors, but as liberators with the tools of restoration. They brought food synthesis ships, atmosphere balancers, and AI menders. But they also carried justice. War criminals were hunted. Vaults of stolen culture and erased history were unlocked. Hidden human populations, thought extinct, were rescued from cryo-burial and stasis prisons. The people began to return, and the stars began to change. Mara's inner circle, Operation Ironclad Jarek, ran simulations of surviving Dominion enclaves. There are still 5 rogue admirals with fleets, 2 hidden research citadels, and 1 last failsafe. The core mind. General Kane nodded grimly. The Dominion's last brain, a planetary AI. Then we take it, Mara said. Every last piece of their empire will fall. Strike on core mind citadel. System, Varnus Prime. The final bastion. The core mind had calculated 84 million possible futures, and in 79 million of them, it survived. It never expected Mara Ryle to use the voice. The voice was a synthetic resonance, encoded with every last message from Earth's fallen, a sonic key to trigger viral memory trauma in Dominion tech. The moment it heard the cries of 1,000 dead children, the core mind began to shut itself down. Mara stood before its neural tank. Humanity is not just carbon and bone, she whispered. We are memory, and memory endures. With one pulse, the last remnant of Dominion control blinked out. Aftermath. Iron stars shine. The reclamation continued. New trade routes formed. New alliances forged. And in place of the Dominion's iron tyranny, iron stars were born. Beacons of autonomy, defense, and hope scattered across the void. Children no longer hid in fear. Artists sculpted galaxies in light. Entire species began to sing again. But peace is never without shadows. In the depths of Andromeda's edge, a signal blinked. It was not Dominion, it was older, hungrier, and it had just learned the name of its next target, humanity. They thought it was over, but the stars were only catching their breath. Edge of the Andromeda frontier, deep range relay. 73A signal shimmered in the black. Not a distress call, not a message. A warning, an ancient language, pre-galactic, pre-light. It translated roughly into one word, awaken. Moments later, the relay vanished. No explosion, just gone. Earth High Command, Dark Reach Division. Briefing Mara Ryle listened to the report. Kane leaned forward, frowning. Jarek's face was pale. There's more, Jarek said. The energy signature predates the current universe. What are we dealing with? Mara asked. Jarek hesitated. Not a who, a what. A remnant from before time. The titans of before. They weren't gods. They weren't demons. They were constructs, born of entropy, devourers of order. Long before the first empires rose, they had already feasted on stars, rewritten galaxies, and slept in the deep dark. Now, they were waking, and they had seen us, the day. Vanguard awakens. The first Titan was codenamed Oblivarian. It moved without regard for physics, slipping between dimensions like a ghost. One Dominion remnant world vanished under its shadow, reduced to subatomic mist. Mara launched Protocol Bastion. Thousands of iron stars reactivated. Defense grids awoke. AI warlords swore fealty to humanity. Even former enemies pledged allegiance to survival. Unity, true, full-spectrum, galaxy-wide, was finally forged. The battle of dying heaven near a neutron storm cluster, a coalition armada, met Oblivarian. Their weapons barely scratched it. Then the Arcforge arrived, a mobile human world ship with Sol's Wrath reactors and quantum lattice cannons. It sang a song of Earth. It struck with the force of a dying sun. Oblivarian faltered. But, before it died, it sent out a scream, heard not in sound, but in gravity. 3 more Titans stirred. Final protocol. Sovereign humanity's last plan was hidden deep within Sol's core, a project so dangerous, it was locked behind quantum cognition encryption. The Sovereign protocol, it would bind every human AI, every ship, every mind, into a single galaxy-spanning entity. A last stand in the shape of collective will. Mara authorized it. The final stand across the stars. From Emberhold to the moon cradles of Lyrax, every human and allied vessel converged. Oblivarian's siblings, Nihilex, Varethus, and Xylem, descended, but they met something new. A united galaxy. A human-led force wielding memory, fury, and unity as weapons. In a final luminous clash, space bent, time cracked, and the Titans burned. Epilogue. The last human directive years later, children would ask their parents what the stars used to look like. They'd speak of shadows once feared and light that returned, of a species once scattered who rose to lead not through conquest, but through survival, and they'd speak of one voice that started it all. This is Mara Ryle. Humanity lives, and we remember.